Welcome back to the Three Parallels podcast with your host, the Dr. Jason Branch, where we rediscover who we were, we embrace who we are, and we make room for who we're trying to become. On today's show, as y'all know, it's June, Black Men Mental Health Month. I'm going to claim the whole month for us when it comes to mental health and wellness. And I have someone that I connected with recently who I consider to be my brother from another mother because there was just instant connection, instant chemistry. And it's like when you connect with someone and you just know it just feels real, it feels familiar, it feels like family, it feels like culture, it feels a connection. You don't ignore those things. So this particular brother, I had the opportunity to meet a little while back from another Black male therapist who was also on the show, Mr. Lewis Johnson. Shout out to Lewis, who is one of my supervisees and now colleague, business partner. He introduced us because he felt as though there was a connection, there's energy. These guys need to be connected. And he was right. So our first conversation led us to all the way where we are now. And now I have the pleasure of giving you access to a phenomenal man who will be Dr. Barnes one day. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody else in between, welcome, Mr. Future Doctor David Barnes. Welcome to the show, baby.
Yeah, thank you so much. Such a warm welcome. And right back at you. Like, yeah, I feel like the same. Your brother from another mother. And like, I'm so glad that Lewis connected us because, yeah, I can tell we're going to be friends for life.
Yeah, it's done. Until you say, all right, I've had enough, you stuck with me. That's just what it is.
Likewise.
So I want to dive in. As you know, us as Black men having conversations about mental health, wellness is not a common thing. I wish it was, and I feel as though one day it will be, but it's not yet. But we are in a space to have these conversations. So I'm curious, where did your insight, understanding, or even desire to get into this profession to serve as a clinician, especially as a Black male?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good question. I guess you could say so. Quick backstory. When I was a kid, I went from living in Philadelphia to the suburbs in a little town called Royersford. Uh, in Philly, everything that we were about to learn, everybody in Royersford had just learned. And
Mm,
Royersford was mostly white neighborhood, and the school. I think it was me, my sister, and one other kid were the only Black kids at the elementary school. And I went through school. I wound up getting into like special ed because I couldn't learn everything in a short amount of time that all these other kids had just finished learning. So I went into special education, and I think I took the lesson from that point that like if you don't do well at something, they're going to make it easier for you. So I didn't really try too hard. Uh, Fast forward to high school, I wasn't a really good student, so naturally they pushed me into like a tech career path, and I went to culinary, which was cool. I love to cook, still love to cook to this day. But I looking back years later, I was like, I wish someone was really there to help me find my path. So
mm,
once I kind of got out of my own way, because I went to culinary school, didn't think I was smart enough to like get like a 4-year degree, stuff like that. School wasn't for me because I wasn't getting good grades. Didn't really realize till later that it was just because I wasn't really trying, really applying myself. I didn't realize that I needed to or what I should do. And then I looked back and I was like, man, I wish I had somebody who helped me find my path. So when I went back to school, I decided to go for psychology, and it wound up going into the school counseling track because I really wanted to be somebody for the young people who could help them find their path, find who they are, and just believe in themselves a lot more than I did at that time.
man, that is incredible. That's incredible. And another example of brother from another mother, I had a very similar experience of just not knowing how great I was, because that's what I heard you just say. You didn't know, you didn't know how great, how brilliant you were, and you didn't have anyone at the time to let you know that, to share that. So it sounds like, full circle, your experience in that environment gave you an opportunity to consider, how can I help somebody else, like that little boy, that person that I was, which led you to this career, which I think is phenomenal, man. So thank you for sharing that story, sharing your truth. And I'm curious to know, like, you could have chose any career path. Like, you could have been in culinary. You love to cook, but you decided, I want to go in this different direction. But not only going in this different direction, you're still hungry for more. Tell us more about that, because you could have easily said, I got the degree, I'm good. No, but you didn't do that. So tell us more.
It's funny. I was just talking to my wife, who is Dr. Barnes, about what makes us do certain things, and how when, like I said, I didn't get good grades all throughout high school and everything. And it wasn't that experience that made me go back to school. It wasn't that experience that made me want more. It was something else. It was like a thirst for knowledge, a curiosity about things. I think curiosity is a great antidote to a lot of the bad things in this world, being curious. Um, but I don't know, like when you like something, when you get good at something, you want to get more of it. You want to keep going. Like, I don't know, I think humans, we're not easily satisfied with things. When we get something, we want more of it. And that can be a bad thing a lot of times, but it can also be a good thing with education, with learning, with connection with people. The more you connect, the more you want to connect. Like, I don't know. I was just talking to a kid right before this who was saying, before he's on the spectrum, and making friends has never been like really easy for him. But he was okay with that until he made a really good friend. And then that friend went away. And it was like, oh man, now I want more friends. And
Mm,
something about us that we want more of what we get, but before we get it, we don't know that we want it. We don't know how good it is. But like, I didn't know how wonderful education and learning. Now I listen to books all the time. I didn't know how awesome it could be just to keep learning things and keep finding out new things and being curious about stuff. So,
wow. Wow, man, I'm loving all of this, all of this. I hope for the to the listeners, you're paying attention, and I hope you're writing this stuff down. If you haven't wrote it down yet, now is an opportunity. Get your journal, get your notebook. If you don't have either, go to Amazon, get you a Gator Stairs notebook, journal, so you can write this stuff down because these are gems. These are breadcrumbs. These are ripples in the pond. And with what I know about ripples is they make an impact. And what you're sharing right now is impactful information because it's your truth, it's your story. And there's somebody else, another black man listening that's in a space now where you were in the past. And I think it's really important for you to know that. So with this, I agree with you 100%, especially if it's something that we like that we didn't know. So this exposure, it sounds like played a huge role in you knowing, okay, there's other things out there that I could do, that I like, that I enjoy, and helping other people. And you moved in that direction. I'm also curious related to counseling itself, because for many of us as black men, we would never, we would never consider being a counselor educate. We wouldn't consider that. So not only did you consider it, you're on this side and even considering going higher. How did this happen? Where was this exposure for you to consider like this is the career, this is where I want to go, even though many of us as black men specifically are not there? What's the story?
Hmm. How did like I decide to get into this, and even though there's like not a lot of, uh,
Yeah, like you could have did culinary. I'm gonna do this. There's a lot of black chefs,
yeah,
but you're like, nah. I'm gonna go in these white schools. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do these. I'm gonna be in these spaces, being one of one more often than not, and I'm going to continue to pursue this thing.
yeah. So I think being in a mostly white school was a blessing and a curse. It was bad because it can be really hard to find your identity when you're around a bunch of people who are not like you. It can be really hard to figure out who you are. And I for many years I just wanted to fit in. I just wanted to not stand out. So I denied liking certain things that like are stereotypical of black folks. Somebody passed me a piece of fried chicken, I'd be like, nah, 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 I'm good. I don't need that.
I love
Watermelon, I look the
it.
other way. Like I don't see no watermelon. you know? But at the same time, like the blessing part of it is being around kids who, for lack of a better word, were privileged and didn't see that they couldn't do certain things. It helped me to just be like, well, I'm used to being in spaces that aren't there aren't any other black people in. I'm used to being in spaces where there aren't other black men or men in. So like I can do that. I think where I got my sense of confidence was through this is what helped me go back to school was reading a lot of like self-help books. Seven Habits of Highly Effective People is one of my top books that like really helped me like break through some of my own limitations and break through some of the things that I was telling myself maybe I couldn't do. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't good enough for certain things. And I call it now positive brainwashing. I'm always trying to listen to motivational things, trying to listen to positive things, trying to be around other positive people like yourself, so that like my brain, my inner dialogue is always pushing me forward, always saying what I can do instead of saying like a lot of other people I know, like, oh no, you can't do that. Oh, you too old for this, or you too this for that. And like, that doesn't help me. Like, I'm like, nah, let's see what we
Wow.
can do.
Wow. Incredible. These are the moments. And for me, like hearing your story, this is your norm. It became to be your norm where it's just this is who you are. And for a lot of people, they wouldn't consider this. But to me, I want to highlight it because this is what helped you become this version of you now, which is very different than who you were growing up. And with this exposure, because that's what I keep hearing, like you've been exposed to people, places, and things, and you took advantage of it being a student of life, being a student of the profession, being a student, period, um, has really helped you grow in a lot of different ways. And I'm curious to know what does this mean for you? Like having this mindset, this knowledge, this awareness, especially self awareness, because you mentioned confidence too. That didn't come overnight. So, where did you get this level of self awareness, self discovery, and curiosity? You just seem to be curious about everything, especially the self help piece. Where did this come from, and where do you want to go with it? Just curious.
Well, kind of like you mentioned, like being exposed to it. I think hmm, one of the best gifts that we can give to the next generation is that kind of curiosity, and giving them that mindset of like what they can think about, what they can do. Um, and it's just, yeah, like you said, being exposed to these different things, and it didn't come overnight. It was I have been pretty insecure about my intelligence for a long time, and probably it wasn't until like I got my master's degree with the 4.0, mind you, that I was like, maybe I'm not dumb. Maybe maybe I'm not super dumb anymore.
It took
Um,
that. It took the
yeah,
math.
like
so
even
you so real quick, we have to talk about it because it's so similar. My lived experience is very similar to yours, not knowing what I was capable of. So, going through the ranks of education and even to get to the masters, like thinking you were one version of you and you were actually somebody different. How did those worlds collide? Especially after you reached the pinnacle of I made a 4.0 in a master's program.
yeah, a lot of reflection, a lot of self thinking about like, okay, well at this point, yeah, I wasn't getting good grades. Why was that? Was that because like I was trying my best and like it just wasn't happening? Nah, I wasn't trying. And then like reminding myself of like who I was back when I was in Philadelphia schools in elementary. I was like, wait a minute, I used to get like straight A's back then. It wasn't
Mm.
until I went out into this other environment that like my grades were not great. Um, and then I think it was because I wrote ironically my last English class at culinary school, I had to write a reflective paper, and that I think that's what really sparked the idea that like, hey, maybe I have some more in me. Maybe I can do better. And I really had to think about it, like, yeah, I have not been like really trying. And when I was in high school, it wasn't cool to try. So like, you know what I mean? Like the cool kids, they were like, nah, I'm not study for a test. Nah, we're gonna go over here and do this other fun thing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
just being really reflective.
Wow. Man, that is incredible. And a lot of us don't give ourselves time to do that. So you gave yourself time for that. And I also heard a lot, and for the listeners that you all know a lot of these concepts, we speak a different language here. And what I hear is 2 + 2 is 5. 2 + 2 is 4. Beliefs and facts. You started challenging these beliefs that you had about yourself and recognized they were not facts. Was it I wasn't capable? Absolutely not. I didn't try. I didn't have to. Like that's a fact. That's a fact. And when you start really diving into the facts, it's hard to hold on to beliefs. And for many of us, we hold on beliefs to so long they become facts even when they're not. And for you, you decided to invest in yourself personally and professionally, and it changed everything. And I can't imagine what you do for your clients because of what you've done for yourself. Ooh, that's a
Yeah.
bar. That's a bar. I can't imagine because you did it for you. Like, in my opinion, that's what makes great clinicians. Those who are doing the work on themselves constantly, consistently to help other people do the same. Because we're not here to give advice, tell people what to do. We're here to help people help themselves. And it sounds like you're able to do that because you did it for yourself from that little boy all the way to this grown ass man. Ooh, let's go. Listen, I
Yeah.
told y'all. I told y'all who was coming. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. Can I say something that
Jump in. Let's go.
you're right. Um but I think there's a fine line between knowing that you've made it from here to here and still being able to be empathetic and connect with people who aren't there yet. Because
Ooh.
when you're free, I don't know if you
Yeah.
like know like that old Plato's allegory of the cave, but like you when you break free from freedom, and you see the real world, it's hard to convince other people who are in bondage that they can be free too. You know,
Yeah.
and I know Mr. Rogers, one of my other heroes, he would say like, what the biggest mistake parents make is forgetting their childhood. And I think a lot of us as adults, I knew teachers who have been through trauma who were less empathetic because they were like, well, I made it through myself, so they need to too. And it's just really, it can be, it's like I said, a thin line between like knowing that you made it through this thing and reaching back to help other people, but still remembering that, hey, it's hard down there, and you don't
Yeah.
know that, like, the water's not as deep as it looks. All you see is like you
Mm.
drown it.
Mm. That's powerful. That's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. In full circle, these are full circle moments that we don't take credit for. We don't reflect on often. And what I'm hearing from you is you became the person that you needed
Mhm.
in several different areas and aspects of your life. You're him now, capital HIM. Capital, you're him now. And to me, this also speaks volumes to the confidence where you're not competing or comparing yourself to anybody else but you in different versions of yourself. And big picture, I feel as though, your degree, your education, your knowledge base being a student, especially with self-help, self-development, has enhanced your awareness. And I agree with you 100%. We see life differently because of our awareness. And the empathy allows us to go back and pull people up with us, which you don't have to do. So I'm
Mhm.
curious, what gave you that passion of I feel moved. I feel that I have an ability and I want to take people with me to see life in a different way. Um, that works for me. So maybe it can work for somebody else. You don't have to do that, but you've chosen to do that. Where does that come from?
That's a really good question. Sounds like you doing some solution focused work. Question. Not a question I would ask. Um, but yeah, I don't know that I ever thought that I had the ability. I think I just thought I want to help other people find their path. And I think that's why, we go to school and we get training and different things. And um, I think I hoped that through that training, through learning these things, I'd be able to use some tools. But you're right, like it is so much deeper than the tools we use. Like
Mhm.
it's who we are,
Yeah.
to try to help and lift other people. And I think I did have a lot of good examples in my life of people who did try to uplift others, people who did try to help others. Um, if nothing more than an encouraging word, I think that's one of the best things about the community that, like, I remember growing up, um not the schools I went to, but I throughout my whole life I stayed at a church, and I have been a part of a really great community there. So like, though I was going to school with all white kids, I did still get to hang out with um family members and friends who were black, and I did was able to develop some sense of identity there. Sorry, I'm rambling now.
Gotcha. No, you're good. You're good. You're good. I am curious. You mentioned church because that's a big thing within our community. How did you navigate life? Because for many of us within the church setting or religious setting, especially black, sometimes we hear the narrative that you go to God, you go to Jesus, you don't go to therapy, you don't do therapy, we don't do therapy. So how did you overcome that? And what was your lived experience, and how did you overcome it to consider this profession, whether as a client, or as a therapist, or even going further?
So I'm thankful that I don't think anyone in my life actually said those kind of words to me. Um, but I know other people who have, and I always thought it was funny because I'm like, they don't say that when like you break your leg. They don't say like, no, 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 don't go to the doctor. Just pray on it. You know what I mean? Like, they tell you to pray,
Pray
but
about
pray
that
like
leg. Pray
pray pray on the way to the doctor. Don't cut him out. And my bishop would say, uh, God gave the doctors the ability to fix these things, the ability to help these things. Like, and they can set the leg, but God's going to heal it. Like, it's not that the doctors are God. We not. It's not an either or. It's same like you don't say to a kid who's failing in math, well, just pray on it. No, no, no. Take your butt upstairs and do your homework and do some studying. Like, you don't just say, just leave it to God. Like that. No, no, no. Ask God. It's a co-construction. Just like we talk about therapy. It's a co-construction. It's not one or the other. God's got his part, the huge part. Couldn't do it without God. for me, couldn't do it without church and religion and stuff like that. But there's also stuff that I can do. It don't mean I just sit back and say, oh well, I hope a blessing comes today. Oh man, I hope I get a job today. No, I go out there and work for it. Go out there and look at it. Look for it. Like
That's real. That's real. That is so real. That's so real. So for those listening who may have heard that news, that info, we don't do therapy, we go to God, we trust God. Like you made it plain with that it's not consistent. So how is it, one way when it comes to physical health, but something totally different when it comes to mental health? It's a contradiction. And that contradiction is us as human beings doing human things. So I'm glad you weren't what's the word? Jaded, I would say. I'm glad you weren't jaded by or had that narrative growing up because if you did, we may not be here. And I think for many people who may have been curious, interested, or in need of support, of help, may not have ever went or haven't gone because of what they've been inundated with their whole lives. And that's all of us, especially black folks, especially black men. To me, and statistics show that we need it the most and go to least. Period. And why do we need it the most? Name any black man in America and tell me they don't need therapy. Name one. In these United States, yes, every
yeah,
day we're dealing with something. So with
yeah,
that, every day we're dealing with something because you can relate to this being a black man here. How do you navigate these spaces? Like from childhood is one thing, but now you're a grown ass man, like good and grown, and you're still in these places and spaces as you elevate in your career that's predominantly, populated by white people, white men, white women. How do you navigate and how you stay authentic in this space? Because for some of us, we assimilate, we find comfort, we conform, but it sounds like just talking to you, like, nah, that ain't the case. I'm not, I'm not feeling to make myself small for you. That's a superpower, and I'm curious, where did that develop, and how do you navigate these spaces? Typically, being one on one.
well, yeah, and I certainly guilty or not guilty, but I certainly code switch. I act different settings. And I think, but again, being that introspective and noticing where you feel safest, where you feel the most welcome and home, feel open to be yourself. And working in kitchens, I found that in the kitchen, if it was a mixed uh, group of people, it was the most fun. Like we could just have fun. We could get the job done and have fun with each other. And that's what I like. Like I like to think of it like I like to be in spaces that are like the Fast and Furious movies. You ever watch those movies? Like they got everybody in there, like every
That's
every
true.
nationality. And
That's
I'm
true.
not saying every space needs to be like that, but I just like being in those areas the most because, like I said, I did grow up around white people, so I'm cool with them. But like it's something like, but when it's all white, like you looking for somebody else black out there. You're like, oh, anybody like somebody out there to see like um but like being authentic. I was talking to somebody about that recently, like, and I almost don't know what that means because at just like we say, like we're trying to learn more, trying to be more, trying to do more. Um I know somebody said like the worst advice you give is like don't change. Like I'm always trying to be better. So like being authentic, I don't know. Like one of my mentors will say like pretend to be who you intend to be. So I'm always trying to be somebody uh not better, but the next version of myself. So being authentic depends on what I'm trying to be or trying to accomplish that day. Because my, is my authentic self, my lazy self who don't feel like sitting up or getting up or going to the gym or something. Yeah, that's part of the authentic me. But the other part of the authentic me is the guy who gets up and goes to the gym and does it anyway and puts on a smile in front of people because he knows that'll make them happier, knows that'll make them and make their day better and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that I'm always like just wanting to smile, like But
Yeah, yeah.
I have different sides of my authentic self, I think.
I love it. I love it. We all do. We all
Yeah.
do. And I feel like these are the conversations we don't typically have. We're not really talking about it, especially as black men. We're not talking about
Mhm.
authenticity. We're not talking about emotional intelligence. We're not talking about those things because we were trained not to,
Mhm.
and it's not,
Mhm.
no judgment, no shame, no nothing like that. But for a lot of us with our fathers, that's what they got from their fathers. So they
Yeah.
can't give us something they didn't get.
Yeah.
And I think that's also the reason why we become different as fathers,
Yeah.
because of our lived experience. So I really appreciate these stories, your experience, and you sharing it because you're providing insight, you're providing perspective, and there's people that's listening and watching, looking at you and see themselves. Man, I can do that too. So I want to go to a different place to where I feel like it's still salamander like.
Okay.
Salamander and gator, right? So still
Mhm.
salamander like, and that's becoming Dr. Barnes because it's gonna happen. So I'm curious, this journey to reconsider, your abilities and to go further, and the journey of what did you think about the PhD before, which is a very different thought than you have now. So where were you before and where are you now related to becoming Dr. Barnes? The other Dr. Barnes. Shout out to your wife.
Right. So I guess where I was before, um, after I got my master's, you get that feeling of like, okay, I'm done. That's good. And like you've had enough of school for a while at least. And I thought about, and I think for a while I said, it's just the dissertation part that is daunting to me. I'm like, man, even trying to keep my thoughts in the conversation linear is a struggle for me. I know you had somebody on a while ago that was like found out he was ADHD, and you were talking about it like I'm undiagnosed, but I'm pretty sure I have it. They told my mom when I was young, they're like, he probably has ADD, all this stuff. If nothing else, my brain jumps all over the place. So like thinking about how to be linear
Mhm.
for like I watch my wife go through the process of my and she's very meticulous like that. She can read something and be locked in for probably hours. She can write papers for hours and connect everything in the right way. Me, I'm like, okay, bang, 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 just all over the place. And so like I was like, I don't know if I could do that. But the more talking to you and I was like, man, it would be really cool to be able to do that. It was more like out like like you said something like really resonated with me because I had kind of an idea before. I was like, the only way I would want to be a doctor is if it just so to see who I become, to
Mhm.
become someone different. It's not about having a title of doctor, but just like I changed as a person, getting my master's, just like I practice martial arts. I changed as a person at every level of my martial arts journey. So I want to see who I could become in that regards too. So I'm like, man, what if I could become that organized person? What if I could become an extreme expert on one subject and be able to like have a whole body of work that says, yeah, I know detailed and one of my other mentors, Dr. Adam Fro, like he breaks down things in such like he like anything we say, like if he was listening to us right now, he'd probably be able to tell us how many times we said certain words or how many times we said different types of questions. And I'm like, that type of detailed thinking, I'm like, that's just so cool. It's like a superpower. But when I was graduating high school, I wasn't thinking like this. It's like I said before, like it's when you go to the next level, it opens your minds up to other levels and other things you could do and makes you like, man, that would be cool to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I love that you've unlocked this other layer, this other level, and that's him, capital HIM, who's always whispering. And I feel as though our conversations allowed you to hear him a little bit louder, a little bit more clearly. And part of this is iron sharpening iron. You have to understand our differences because you and I are very similar. Again, brother from another mother. I've been raw dogging life in these ADHD streets for 43 years, unmedicated, undiagnosed, and I got the PhD. And my mind works the same way yours do.
Mm.
And the reality is, what I had to discover, which I want to share with you, is completing your dissertation, you have to determine who you are, how you work in order to finish it. So if you come at it as the wifey, Dr. Barnes, it ain't gonna work. That ain't how you work. That ain't how you process.
Yeah.
And for me, mine was trying to do it like everybody else that didn't look like me. That didn't work either, And so I had to discover, how do I think? How do I work? How do I get this thing done? And my method was very unorthodox. And I want to share it. I want to share it.
Yeah.
So my method, again, before I even knew about neurodivergence and all of that, was I love being up at night was my thing. So I'm up to 2 o'clock in the morning. To this day, it's just my normal routine. I'm up to 2 o'clock in the morning, just up because everybody sleep. And that's when I can think, that's when I can process. So my writing time was typically 10 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Mm.
every day. 10 to 2 every day. And I would do this work on an old school card table, for the culture. So I'm on this old school card table, got my laptop out, behind me, big screen TV, and I'm watching scary movies. Again, this is how my mind works. So I got scary movies playing in the background. I'm killing the game. Got a little coffee going, and I'm getting it done. 2 o'clock hit. I go to bed. I'm sleep till noon. Have my day, teach my class, do whatever I need to do it over again. And then I would have to start relocating. I couldn't stay in the same spot. So that may be Friday. On Saturday, I'm at the coffee shop. On Sunday, I'm at the library. Next day, I'm in Texas. I was in Ohio at the time. So I had to learn, how do I learn? How do I write? Because I never wrote a dissertation before. I don't know anybody who did it before. So I had to figure me out. And I feel like for you, David, it's the same thing. You're going to
Yeah.
figure you out by doing, by being, because you're a student of life. So I want to give you your flowers and let you know, like, you got to find your method, your system. And that's for anybody listening who willing to get out the damn way and consider a PhD. Because the only reason anybody wouldn't consider is based off of what they heard. I just want to talk about facts. And
Mhm.
everything you heard about a PhD came from somebody who ain't even got a bachelor's. Come on now. Come on. That's where it came from. So we're inundated with these beliefs that I can't do, I can't be, it's this, it's hard. That's coming from folks that never did it or anything close to it. And to me, if I did it in these streets, neurodivergent, undiagnosed, no medication, no nothing, I have no doubt you can and you will, because you got me. I ain't gonna write it for you, but I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna help you get it written. So, man, I appreciate all of this, because for a lot of listeners who have that inclination, like, I really want to, but there's always a barrier. And that barrier to me is all belief. It's not factual. It's what I believe. And again, 2 + 2 is 5. So I really appreciate you sharing this, because you gave insight. And for us as Black men, more people need to know this journey, this story, this truth, that we can and we will. So I want to switch gears for a minute, little rapid fire, learning a little bit more, diving a little bit deeper, because I feel like you are a student of life, which means you're also a student of people. So you're constantly learning about people. So I'm curious, from birth to where you are right now, what would you say you've learned about other people, and what have you learned about yourself?
Well, that's a good questions. Um, I'm always learning about other people. Uh, so also a big geek in a certain sense. Love superhero stuff. Love Star Trek, Star Wars, all that. And I saw somebody breaking down this thing about Star Trek. And Star Trek, anybody who doesn't know, is like a futuristic society, and it's supposed to be like Earth is pretty much a utopia, and like they've settled all racism and classism and all that stuff, and people don't even work for money; they work to better themselves, and all this stuff. And it was like breaking down why it doesn't work, or like why it doesn't work now, and how people have like commented like and I've even said like I don't think humanity is ready for it. But this thing had me think about the fact that like nah, it's the systems in place
Ooh,
make the people like
ooh,
when
ooh.
and I remember
Hold on, time out. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Because you going somewhere, and I want everybody to be ready. So to the listeners, real quick, tune in, stop what you're doing, turn the radio up a little bit more. I'm dead serious right now. And write down these gems that you finna get hit with, because this is another level of thought and perspective, and you got to take it in. So please continue where you're going, but I want to make sure the listeners are ready for what you finna deliver.
and so this is where I think that our ADHD brains are really good, because then I started pulling like a whole bunch of different things. I'm thinking about the old movie Trading Places. I'm like, yeah, that's the same thing. I'm thinking about an experiment that I heard about. Or not even, it wasn't even an experiment. It was a thing where they were studying these, I think chimpanzees or some type of monkeys, and they were looking at their hierarchies, and they were studying to how it applies to humans. And they had a very similar hierarchy as humans do, and alpha, chimp, or whatever. And something happened uh, because the leader gets to eat first. He ate food, and it might have been him and one of the other leaders type people. They ate this food and they died because it was poison or whatever, and the leadership died. And so what we were left with was all these nice, or like the next level of the males, and then the women and children. And these nice, less aggressive males and women developed like this culture, like the researchers like, oh my gosh, the whole study is ruined because the leaders died. But what they found was it became a more harmonious culture. They became nicer to each other. They were grooming each other. They were doing all these things that like didn't exist when there was that hierarchy. And then like other monkeys would come into the group, and when they would start displaying some of those old like territorial or dominantistic things, or be mean to the women or whatever, the monkeys like, hey, that's not what we do here. And they would train the other monkeys on how to be like cooperative and nice. And I just felt like that was so amazing. But it still goes to that same thing of like, when there's a system in place, when the norm is to act like this, things that's when people evolve and when they do the right thing. Often have said like, if you can't see that you could be a Nazi or a slave master in the right situation, then you don't understand humanity. But like,
Ooh,
it didn't really occur to me that like, it's not that we are not evolved enough to be at a higher a society that like, we could get rid of money and get rid of all these things. We haven't developed and implemented the systems well enough to like be able to do that. And I don't know when we will, because I feel like there will always be the ones who, when everybody else is passive, they're going to come in and try to dominate. um, but again, if the system is good enough, those people won't be able to do it either. Just like those chimps, like they had their system set up and it was enough for them that when one new one came in, they could be like, no, 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 that's not what we do here. But
mhm.
yeah, I don't know.
I love it.
Systems.
Yeah, you do know. You do you do know. You can't even say I don't. You do know. You're talking about systems, man. You're talking about systems. And you can't have people without systems. You can't have systems without people. It just
Yeah,
doesn't exist because the
yeah,
people create systems.
yeah.
A quote from Hamilton that I will always quote whenever I talk about Hamilton is, no one was in the room when it happened.
Mm,
Talking about all, Declaration of Independence, who signed what? Nobody was there. And
yeah,
in 2025, we're still living by rules from these
yeah,
systems, from these
yeah,
people from the
yeah, yeah,
1800s. Come on. Why do you think
yep.
school shootings don't happen with a musket?
Mm-hmm.
Happens with an AK. I just want to talk
Yep,
about it. Why do you think we're still having school shootings? It's a
yep,
system. And you're talking
yep.
about it, David. And I appreciate
Yeah,
you bringing it here because this is the place for it because we're not
yeah,
talking about it. But I don't know anything, entity that's not systemized because of who we are.
yeah,
All the way from this podcast space to city government, politics, and where we are, religion. It's all systems. And it's people that's a part of these systems of why things stay the same and why things change. And I do feel I want to connect this all together to the counseling profession. The helping profession is a system as well. However, it's being infiltrated and inundated with us, people of color, who it's never been before. Because if you look at, who we study and what we study, ain't nobody in there look like us. So
yep,
therefore, it brings question. How can I do things exactly like Freud? It don't look nothing like him. How can I
yep,
do things like Adler and Gestalt? And they ain't even from here.
yeah,
It
yeah,
makes you question.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm here and I do things differently. And when what you were talking about that system, it's not going to change until we change. And the change that we do make a part of systems is to create our own, which is called culture. Man, listen.
yeah,
We here. It's culture. We can control that. We can control who comes in and who and comes out, like who's this and who's that. That's a system as well, but it's a system that we own. That's culture. Oh man, this is you got me excited, bro. You got me so
yeah,
excited. All right, let's keep
yeah.
going. That was just one other rapid fire question. All right, next thing. I'm curious to know um a word, a phrase, a memory, a moment that has stuck with you personally or professionally. What comes to mind?
So the first thing that popped in mind, I was thinking of it just a second ago, was I don't know if you've seen the movie Coach Carter. I know, but there's a poem in there that I like, and Coach Carter is asking this kid, who had had a hard life and stuff like that. He said, "What's your deepest fear?" He kept asking him that, and then at the end of the movie, the kid recites this poem. And I don't remember the whole thing, but it's like, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate, but that we're powerful beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And talks about how there's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that others don't feel small. He talks about how like we are all meant to shine as children do. We're all meant to like, um, essentially be our best selves, embrace our greatness, embrace what we're good at, not be like, oh, yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being humble, but like there's also nothing wrong with embracing your greatness. There's nothing wrong with saying, nah, I'm really good at this thing. it not doesn't have to be in a braggy way, but like owning that you are good at something helps you be better at that thing too. I think like instead of being like, oh, I'm just dabbling with therapy. How good am I going to be at therapy if I think I'm just like I'm trying to be okay.
Absolutely,
Like,
absolutely. I'm with you
I want to
100%.
be great.
Yes, yes. I feel the same way. I want to be great. I feel as though I am great. And when it comes to my students, I tell them there's three types of therapists. I talk about this all the time. I'm a professor, like I can't help but to teach. So
Yes.
the three therapists that I talk about are good therapists, great therapists, and horrible therapists. We don't have to talk about horrible therapists. Everybody already talking about them. Good therapists is people that just do enough. Great therapists are the ones who do the work on themselves. David, that's you. So yes, you great, we great. These are our flowers. Okay, y'all can smell them. Y'all can. All right, next piece. I'm curious. You did share some personal stuff related to comics and in the multiverse, all of that. I'm also curious of more interesting or another interesting fact about yourself that most people don't know or wouldn't suspect.
I think I'm pretty vocal about martial arts, but like that's something that like people. Well, I'll tell you. Well, yeah, martial arts is something people wouldn't expect. Like I said, I'm kind of a geek. Some people wouldn't expect. I think most people know that I like religious. One unique thing is that my one of my favorite types of movie or musics is soundtrack music from like movies. So like
Nice.
most of the time, either I'm listening to a book or I'm listening to like soundtrack music, just like in the background. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So top two, top three greatest soundtrack albums for you.
So it's oh man, that's a good question. I would say number one, and this is a really old one, but the original Superman uh, soundtrack. I mean, it's just iconic so much so that it's in like the new Superman movie, like and you can't escape it. And it's just yeah, really good. And John Williams, who was the composer for that, he did Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Harry Potter, a whole bunch of other things like, and he's just really awesome. Oh, number two would have to be I'll say Black Panther, but really anything by Ludwig Göransson. I'll probably mess up his name, but that dude is a genius when it comes to music, and like he understands music in a way that I don't think many other people on this earth ever will. Like when they made Black Panther, they all went to Africa, but like they studied different sounds and stuff they did there, and he incorporated that into that soundtrack and just made it um, awesome. Also, the one I think who did Sinners and most of the other Ryan Coogler movies and stuff, but like yeah,
That's the guy.
yeah,
That's the guy. Thank you for that. I appreciate like this show is for nerding out. Okay. That's what we do because this is you. And I want you to be you here because there's so many other people that's like you that we don't get permission to be us. And to me, nerd is a different term for being me, a
yeah,
genius, it's just different terms for us. So I appreciate you sharing this because there's other people that have the same passion that don't hear from other people that share that. So I'm a music lover as well, another reason that we're connected. And
yeah.
this podcast has a playlist, which I'm adding some soundtracks because of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So Superman can't wait. Black Panther cannot wait. Ludwig, whatever, can't wait. He
Yeah,
gonna be on here. So I
yeah,
do want to step back to something. You mentioned martial arts, and you're in a very unique space and place in your career where you're integrating mental health, mental wellness, and martial arts. So if you could share more about this integration of the physical and to mental health and mental wellness.
yeah. So it's really cool. Obviously people do somatic work, people do movement therapy, dance therapy, and stuff like that. And what I do is not necessarily that. It's I just give kids and other people the freedom to do things while we talk. As you know, like you mentioned already, for a lot of young black men, like therapy is not on their agenda. It's not something people are usually recommending. And if they are, they're like, nah, I'm not going to that. But to see a guy and throw some punches, learn how to throw a couple punches, and maybe answer a couple questions, maybe talk about a couple things. All right, yeah, we can do that. We can do that. And so it really is just a way to lower that barrier to getting in to see somebody. I also work with a company called Grow Now as an ADHD coach, and a lot of what they do, their offices is also set up to like be active, to do things, have a catch, throw a football, do all these different things. Just because we know kids with ADHD, the men in general, guys, boys, we need to move. That's how we do things. As you know, historically, we were doing things while we're talking. We talking, but we talking while we hunting. We talking while we working on the assembly line. We talking while we're doing stuff. We're not just sitting down and braiding each other's heads. You can braid each other's heads if you want, but like we're not just sitting down and having necessarily a conversation. I think some of us are better at this now, but like I think historically we've been doing stuff while we were talking. You know?
Yes. Yes. Thank you for this. And I applaud you for integrating different modalities of therapy because we were trained not to. We were trained that you don't do things a certain way or it has to be this way and that way. And that's another reason I'm so excited about more people of color getting into this profession because we bring our culture, we bring creative energy, we bring dialect, intellect, we bring so much that the profession does not have because it excluded us for a long period of time. Just want to talk about facts. You ain't got to like it, but it's factual information. And now, with what you're sharing, you just gave permission to so many other people, therapists and training students that want to integrate things with mental health but don't feel as though they can, don't know how, or don't feel as though it's okay to do. And I really appreciate you for doing that because to me, it speaks volumes to what's researched related to therapy outside of the office. Ecotherapy is an example of that. But if we can do it related to nature, why can't we do it related to anything else that we want to do? From boxing to chess to walking, talk to whatever, playing
Yeah,
PlayStation, doing therapy,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Why can't we? Because Freud wasn't playing PlayStation.
yeah.
Freud,
Right.
Freud wasn't boxing. You know what I
Right.
mean? He wouldn't work with black people either. I just want to talk
No.
about it. He wasn't working with those. So anybody that we studied didn't work with people that look like us.
Yeah.
So this is why, man. So you just gave permission to a lot of people to do what works best for them. And I commend you for that. I support it. I'm thankful. And for those that's listening, take this to heart. I mean it. Take it to heart because this is real. This is real life. It's real time. It's happening. And David decided to use his gifts, his abilities, his passion, what he loved, what he enjoyed, and integrate it into this profession. And to me, it's going to blow up because now there's people listening. Oh, I like martial arts too. Oh, I want to be a therapist too. Oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. I can get a
Yeah.
PhD. I'm telling you, these conversations is how we grow and change. So, a couple more questions. I'm gonna get you out of here because you got shit to do. All right. If you were to describe three different versions, three parallels, your old self, your current self, your future self, using one word, or you can go further if you want. But those three versions, how would you describe the old David, current David, future David?
Old David, quiet. Um, Current David, becoming.
Ooh, that's
Uh,
good. That's good.
I think I stole that from Michelle Obama. But
We ain't gonna tell. We ain't gonna tell.
um, future David, unlimited.
Ooh, that's a word. That's a word. Oh, I love it. Love it. Last thing, you get to plant a seed. You get to give the gift that keeps on giving. So on this show, we don't do homework. I don't believe in homework because homework, you take it home, you do it, you never remember it again. Life
Right.
work, you take it home, you do it, you pivot. Your life will change, can change. So if you were to offer a keepsake, some life work for the listeners, what would it be for them to consider shifting?
Um, Stop looking and talking about what you don't want and shift that focus to what you do want. Focus on that, um, and focus on who you want to be. In every moment in life, you can complain about all the things going wrong. You can complain about what everybody else is doing, and it's valid and it's fine. You can do that. But at some point, you got to ask yourself, what do I need to do? Who do I want to be? Okay, my boss is a jerk. Who do I want to be with a boss that's a jerk? Do I want to quit? Maybe. Do I want to rise above what they're saying? Do I want to look at them differently? I've had conversations with people who just by looking at their boss differently, just by like we said, being curious, their boss is transformed. They don't know how, but they talked to somebody last week. Like they're like, my boss gave me an award now. We don't know how. They didn't do anything necessarily. All we did was talk about, well, be curious about them. Why do you think they might be like this? What made them be like this? I'm not trying to justify their boss, but just be curious.
Yeah.
Wonder what makes them this way. And now their boss is like getting along with them, giving them gifts, all this stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's coincidence, but I think when you change the things you look at, the things you look at change.
Oh man, powerful,
Change the way.
powerful. I hope y'all writing this down. I hope you're getting it. Rewind it, play it back. Okay, you have access. Take advantage of that. All right. So, last thing, anything you want to offer, anything you want to share, any product, services, and connection. If people want to reach out to you and connect with you, like, yo, I love what you were sharing. I'm in Pennsylvania. I want to connect. I want to take you out for coffee. I want to box you and do therapy. Whatever. How can
um,
people connect with you?
Yeah, so I don't have products of my own that I want to share. I would say that, like, I wouldn't be the therapist I am if I hadn't found, like we talked about before, Elliott Connie and the Solution Focused Universe. That before I found Solution Focused, I was headed towards burnout, and I'd only been in as a school counselor for like 2 or 3 years at that point, and already ready, feeling burnt out. But because of this way of working with people, because of this way of thinking, again, looking for what I want, looking for who I want to be, rather than how terrible all these other things are. Like, it shifted the way I think. So I would highly recommend. It don't have to be that, but like we talked about before, it's not a lot of black men in this space, and he is one of them. And it's been such a great thing to be able to connect with him and be able to shift my mindset. But find whoever your people are. Find whoever that person is who you can connect with, who allows you to not feel like you are burnt out, who allows you to do your job with passion, with joy, with love, instead of with dread and with, oh, here comes so and so again. Oh man, oh, they all depressed. And one of his big things is like finding the hero in your clients. And like, once I started doing that, man, I can work with anybody, because like, no matter how depressed, no matter how upset you are, you have survived something that not everybody can survive. And so now I'm like, oh man, let me find out how this is the part in your story where you're finding out, who you are, and like, what things you can go to, where you're becoming more unlimited. Like, I want to know this person. I want to figure out how they got through the stuff they got through and where they can go in the future. But as far as me, you can find me at davidbarnestherapy.org. Um, and yeah, and feel free to reach out there. You can text me. My business number is 484-681-2768. I'm always looking to connect with people and, learn and help coach, um, be a therapist, whatever I can be to help you.
Okay. Are you accepting new clients?
I am still not a
Y'all
whole
heard it
lot,
here
but
first.
some.
Y'all heard, and I don't know when it's gonna air, but listen, y'all heard it here first. Get in line, okay? Because it is one, might be a waiting list. Get in line. This brother is bad. He is next level. And I don't recommend every therapist. Know that. But there's some therapists I do. I would recommend David Barnes, future Dr. Barnes, to anyone who's interested in coaching, therapy, um, martial arts, and anything that he talked about. Like, you have access to this person now because he gave you access out of trust of this process, trust of the podcast, trust of me, trust that we're just ripples, putting pebbles in the pond and creating ripples and knowing is going to come back. But we're not doing it for what's coming back. We're doing it because we can. Man, you just blessed me today. You just put a sweater on my heart, one little one. You like, you knitted it and put
Likewise,
oh,
brother.
this is emotional intelligence. For those that don't know, that's what this looks like. This is emotional intelligence all day long.
Yes.
So, also, I wanted to share real quick before we get out of here. Big shout out to Elliott Connie. Thank you for bringing him up and sharing your story of how he kind of inspired a shift to begin doing this profession differently. Because I feel as though burnout for many of us, especially people of color in this profession, is due to trying to be a therapist that we think we need to be versus the
Yes.
therapist who we actually are. And every program teaches you to be somebody you're not. I just want to talk about it. And if we don't have that interruption or disruption, then we don't last long in this profession, or we don't last long in life. It can take us out because we just want to serve, we just want to give, and we're not even considering pouring back into ourselves. So big shout out to Elliot Connie. And I'll say this publicly because I don't care. Elliot Connie, you are the reason Elliot Connie is going to be a guest on this show. I'm speaking it now. David Barnes, I'm sorry, future Dr. Barnes is the reason that Elliot Connie will be on the Three Parallels podcast, because I don't know if y'all know, Elliot Connie just was on the Breakfast Club a couple times, dropping gems. He's going to be on here dropping gems. I'm telling you now. Why? Because I said it. Everything will happen. Everything that's happening to you in life is based off you said it. You broke, you said it. You hungry, you said it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you said, you listening now. You said it. Oh, I'm finna go check out the podcast, see what Dr. Brand's talking about with his wild, say he finna do. You said it. You said it. So I'm saying it now in real time. Elliot Connie will be on this show because of you, David. Just giving. That's what it is, man. And I don't know how you can give freely with no expectation and not be blessed 100.
Yes. 100%.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Oh, anything else before we get out of it? Because we can do this all day. Anything else you want to share before we get out of here?
Just thank you. Thank you for who you are and your welcoming and accepting presence. And like that poem was saying, like, your light gives me permission to shine. And thank you for that.
Let's go. Hashtag Lighthouse. That's hashtag Lighthouse. Let's go. Man, thank you so much for the love. Thank you for being here. And again, I don't mind giving people their flowers. I love giving people their flowers on this show. You are an exceptional person. You're an exceptional human. You're an exceptional Black man. You're an exceptional therapist. You're great at who you are and what you do because you decided to live life on your own terms. You are authentic. You're genuine, emotional intelligence. You are a vessel. You are a gift to me and anybody you cross paths with. So if you all get a chance to cross paths with this man, I want you to give him a big bear hug because you may hug him before I can. Even though it's a brother, my brother from another mother, we never met in person. Never been in the same room, never breathed the same air, but it's the connection. I don't even know what this man looked like from the neck down. I have no idea. I have no idea. Same here. We don't know, but it don't matter. It doesn't matter. What does matter is who we are and what we give. So thank you for giving to us. Whew.
Thank you. I'll say this, it takes one to know one.
All day long. I'm with it. Hashtag Lighthouse. This has been another episode of Three Parallels Podcast with your host, the Dr. Jason Branch, where we rediscover who we were, we embrace who we are, and we make room for who we're trying to become. If this episode has been a blessing, a gift, a light to your lighthouse, give it away. Share it. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and spread the love. Have a great day, great morning, great week, great life. Goodbye. Peace.